Welcome to Green Gen Cymru's Grid Sessions podcast. Today is a two-part episode touching on all things GI. Enjoy. So normally with this sort of thing, it's primarily been internal staff, but it's been really nice it's actually Steve's idea to bring in an external, especially such a key part of what we're doing at the moment now that we're actually breaking ground, if you like.
Yeah, absolutely. When we actually, the first stages of this ground investigation work actually commenced 12 months ago when we started engaging with a contractor to do the works. So we engaged with a contractor, probably the market leader in ground investigation works and leading into constructing foundations of overhead lines and pylons. At the moment, a company called Power Grid Civils, a company that I'm very familiar with. Worked on several projects with them over the years. And as we progressed towards contract stage, then they suggested to me, can you find me a site manager? Site manager, so somebody that can do the admin side of site management on projects like this, and also not afraid to get his hands dirty. And then, so myself and Dewi, we grew up together, went to school together. Dewi is a landowner locally to the Vernon Frankton project. Vast amount of experience on all aspects of civil works and cross-country linear infrastructure projects, and also more than anything Welsh-speaking and local to the area with the contacts and connections that needed to conduct a scheme like this.
I know he's good at admin because he's chased after me for a signature a few times and spraying my boots with some stuff to keep me clean. So I suppose maybe, if you don't mind, maybe start a little bit with Elan, just based on most of his work. I know he's still very busy, but was pre sort of Dewi's introduction.
Yeah, absolutely. Elan mentioned here that he's been 2 years on the project, Dil.
Mm-hmm.
2 years, and very much at the forefront of this, really. Our offices are based in Cardiff, and a lot of our team members as well are based in Scotland. But let's make no mistakes about this. Elan is the man on the ground in the coalface of all this.
I see all the final things that are happening, but I don't really know day to day what you're doing. So it'd be really good to understand what your working week looks like, and also what's got us to the stage of bringing in people like Dewi and actually, like I say, breaking ground and getting stuck in with the GI.
Yeah, well, as a land manager, our function really is to engage with the landowners. So we're the link between the company and the landowners. But in between me and the landowners, we have an external firm of land agents who deal with most of the day-to-day admin, contacting landowners, getting in touch with them, finding out who owns the land, and corresponding with them right from the start 2.5 years ago, informing them of the consultation and sending them licenses for non-intrusive surveys, which we've been doing since early 2024. Non-intrusive surveys it's what it says on the tin, really. It's ecological, arboricultural surveyors from external consultants, walking the ground, gathering data and information about what sort of land we're likely to be impacting, and feeding back to the project, and that gets considered by the project team. So that's been going on for 2 years and still is going on. The work that we've been doing more recently with the intrusive surveys is a lot more involved. There's the risk of disturbance on the ground. You have machinery coming on, so it's a lot more intrusive as the name of the survey suggests. So we've been in touch with landowners since sort of the first quarter of this year, informing them of the sites where we wanted to carry out different ground investigation works. But because it's the first campaign, really, of intrusive surveys that Green Gen has done, there was a lot of nervousness about how is this going to work out, because we haven't done them before. And because we are impacting on people's land and livelihood and interfering with farming operations, there's a lot more to take into account. So there's a lot of preparation involved in getting the the license drawn up, getting the terms drafted, checked by the solicitors, making sure they were fair. And that was before we sent them out to the landowners concerned. So there's quite a bit been going on since the early part of this year.
We spoke before about jargon and technical speech, but that was the narrative there was perfect, just so easy to understand. And yeah, when you talk about agents, are those, for the public point of view, are those the same agents they see at consultation? Are those the same people we work throughout every stage, or do we use different people? As an example, Camargue is an agent that we use. Is that the same agency you guys use throughout, or do we dip in and out of different specialists? How does that work?
Camargue are the agents on the scheme as far as the public relations are concerned, the PR company. WSP are the land agent company that we've instructed to help and advise on the Vernwy Frankton project since the start. They're based, I think the main office is in Birmingham, but they've got teams of land agents and land referencers. So there's a lot of referencing to do to work out, who owns a particular tract of land, and then liaising with them and making sure that they're aware of what has been going on, or what is likely to be happening, and getting their consent to get on their land.
Full on. Yeah.
So I'd just like to, for us that has been in this sector for a few years, ground investigation is just something that's not out of the ordinary for us. So I'd just like to touch on why we're actually doing it at this stage of the project. So all the projects are, we call it tower spotting. Every pylon is spotted via consultancies based on desktop approach. For instance, this was done on the Vernwy Frankton scheme, it was done by a company called Stantec, and their offices are based in Reading. So the digital technology available, the desktop analysis, all the software, all the programs are absolutely brilliant, don't get me wrong. But there is absolutely no substitute for boots on the ground and digging a hole in the ground to see exactly what's in the ground. So I just wanted to touch on that. Why are we doing it, and why are we doing it at this stage? So there's several aspects to designing a project like this. The stage we are on at the minute is called FEED. FEED stands for Front-End Engineering Design. So if you can, the example I always use to that, when you are applying to build a house or whatever, you do your outline planning first, and then that's followed by detailed design, following ground investigation, which is linked to detailed planning.
Most of the investigation boreholes were done down to 15 metres of depth, and they were taking coil samples out 1.5 metres at a time, just to evaluate the sample of the soil that was coming out, and to analyse that then, and do a detailed design on it then with the ground that they were dealing with.
So basically, they were not taking the desktop analysis' word for it. We were doing our own analysis, digging into the ground and finding out exactly what the ground was made up of, really.
Yeah.
So what sort of plant and equipment was involved with that then, though?
Drilling rig.
Was that a track machine?
Track machine, drilling rig, which drilled a core hole in the ground, which was able to extract the sample of material out to be analysed.
And what about the drilling rig? Obviously, I'm sure everybody has noticed that we've had a very generous year weather-wise. For instance, is it low ground pressure machinery? Is it on track?
On track, the low ground pressure, but obviously, it's a heavy machine. It's a 15-ton machine. The track width is 2.5 metres by 4 metres long. It does dig in, so if it was a wet year, for instance, you would have the potential for it to damage the ground, which is not in anybody's interest to damage the farmers and the landowners' land. So we had to, on a few occasions, we had to use bog mats, which are kind of wooden track mats that you put underneath the tracks so that to stop the drilling rig from sinking into the ground.
So the first site visit I came on, it was torrential rain
Yeah,
up near Oswestry Way, wasn't it?
yeah.
And so they were on the mats then, weren't they?
They were on the mats then,
Because
yeah.
I was blown away with how good the condition of the land actually was, both where you'd finished and cleaned up and where you were currently working as well. Because
Yeah.
I was
The reinstatement is absolutely vital.
I was well impressed
The
by it.
reinstatement is absolutely vital. Another thing I'd like us to touch on as well is the prior programming as well, because this is the Vernon Frankton scheme is over 50 kilometres long, so you'll have so much variations of what form of agriculture that land is being used for. For instance, you have different types of crops.
Yeah. Well, you went from grass fields to wheat fields to barley fields to,
And trying to program that, obviously, because those different types of crops are harvested at different times.
different time of
So
year,
how did
yeah.
you manage that then? Was it about landowner engagement?
There was landowner engagement, obviously, from WSP and Ilan, which they'd done the program for it. So we were lucky enough that we had
Yeah.
a program that we were following, which Ilan probably was more involved in that.
Yeah, but we've been sending out licenses to all landowners along the alignment since April. Some of them came back pretty quickly, some of them still haven't come back, and I don't expect to see them coming back either. So I think having that good relationship with the landowner is crucial, because you're able to find out what's happening on this farm. Is it likely to be a goer if we try and go there in, I think we started in early August, and
Yeah.
the weather has been good all summer. Ground conditions were fantastic. Harvests had been gathered a lot sooner than usual this season. So we were lucky really with the ground conditions and the weather that made such a difference. But if a landowner came back and said, look, I'm happy to sign this license, you can come on, but I've got this crop that I want to harvest in a couple of weeks' time, so can you delay your survey until I've done that? We take that into account, and that's what we do. What we'd be silly to do otherwise, because you'd be antagonising the landowner, and you'd be faced with a disturbance claim at the end of it. So it's pointless going against the landowner's wishes, because it's very, very probable that we need to come back and deal with that landowner at some later stage. So it's best not to do that.
So the reinstatement work was very, very important. That was one of the reasons why I wanted to try and involve Dowie in the scheme, to be honest with you, with his experience in cross-country pipelines and other various infrastructure projects. What sort of feedback did you have on the reinstatement, Dowie?
Very positive, very positive. We had even comments from a few farmers which said, oh, we can hardly see that you've been there. And that was the whole, point of it, that we could go there, do the investigation and leave the ground exactly as we got it.
Caleb had to walk me literally from where I am to that sofa to physically show me where the hole was, because I genuinely couldn't see it. So like, from someone who's not from infrastructure or this sector at all, if that was my land, I would genuinely over the moon. I was blown away by the whole site itself.
Yeah, and that was very important for Power Grid Civils to be able to leave the land as we got to when we went there to start the ground investigation.
And it's very important as well, when if you're starting out your programme of works, you go to a couple of landowners on week one, for instance, and you do a nice tidy job there, you leave the landowners happy. People communicate, people talk, and even though bad news travels very fast, good news also travels at speed as well, which...
Yeah, they do talk, don't they, in the market or in chapel or wherever, and it's the finishing touches really that you couldn't see where these drilling rigs had been most of the time, but sometimes you go back and there were just a bit of slop that was left on the ground, which you think, well, that doesn't look good, but it'll recover. But having somebody come on with a rake and a spade and doing it by hand, just doing the finishing touches and leaving it in a good order, makes such a difference.
No, absolutely. It's the
difference.
attention to detail, isn't it? And not only is it pride in your work from, as we all do, in this aspect of it as well. You know, you want to be able to stand behind it as well.
Yeah, showing respect.
Showing respect, yeah.
You know,
With the actual drilling itself, so you talked about the desktop analysis, and we obviously back it up with the physical drilling for obvious reasons. Have you found any things that have shown you exactly why you have to back it up with the drilling? Like, it's been totally different to the analysis we had.
Yeah, there was a few situations where the land was supposedly good, and we wouldn't have to be, we'd have to go to the project depth of 15 meters, but the ground was so damp and wet, we'd had to go down to 25 meters on a couple of them just to clarify where the hard was. And
So that goes back to my point originally, how vital doing this kind of ground investigation works is. As I said, the desktop analysis stuff and the historic borehole data is good, but you cannot take from a program perspective, and from a business perspective, and from a project perspective, you have to do your own analysis. So just obviously, it's very positive that the landowners were happy with the works, the way we left the works. What about compensation then, Ilan? Obviously, because we do our best to do the best jobs that we can. We are intruding on them, not only on the land, but only on their livelihoods and on the way they go about their weeks.
Yeah, in this particular example or the campaign in total, because the weather conditions were good, to date we haven't had a compensation claim come in. I don't want to spook it by saying that, but and we might have something later on. But the way the license was structured, there was an early sign-off payment. If the landowner returned the license to WSP within 2 months of the date they had it, then there was a payment for that, and then there was a payment per borehole or trial pit, but that was as advance compensation. So in the instances we've just done, if there was no disturbance, the farmer banked that money because there was no reinstatement to be done. But if the weather conditions would have been different, then if he had a claim for £5,000, well, the total that he would have received as advance compensation under the license would be taken off that claim. But luckily, we haven't come to that stage yet. But it could be different. If you were working under different conditions and you had made a mess whilst trying to get in.
So I think, with all the will in the world, not to be in that situation. So how did you mitigate it from a site supervisor point of view? How did you take records beforehand, photographs? And
Yeah. So all the land was photographed prior to our arrival there. And then once we had concluded the work, we took pictures then and of no damage or any damage that we'd done. But it was minimal, the damage.
And what about engaging with the landowner before you leave, for instance?
Yeah. The landowners, they were all quite intrigued to what we were doing and how we were doing it. And, most of them, they spent a few hours down there with us, just having a look on what we were doing and how we were getting on. Again, a lot of them, at the end, when we'd finished, they'd come there and just have a look, and they would appreciate how much effort we would put into getting the land back to how it was and to leave it in the best condition that we could.
The farmers are quite practical and pragmatic, aren't they? And they're used to seeing machinery on the land, so they're not spooked by what does an intrusive survey look like? What sort of machinery are you going to be bringing in? They're used to doing that, and it's not a big deal for them.
Yeah, they know in the area, growing up not too far from there, it is a well farmed area around there.
Yeah.
And they farm it well and they farm it efficiently, and with that comes heavy plant and equipment and machinery.
Yeah.
So just on the local supply chain, though, obviously you're local, you're a landowner to the area and all that. Power Grid Civils, market leaders in the UK in this type of work, but they are based in Northern Ireland. So a big part of this was market engagement. How were we able to provide further local engagement with the likes of plant and equipment, or even down to waste disposal of skips? And
Yeah. So the plant and machinery, except for the specialist drilling rig, was all hired locally from local people. There was 3 personnel that were local within a 25 mile radius of the work. So again, all that goes back to the community of that you're working in, and trying to keep them in work, of the local people, so that
so that's absolutely, I know that's definitely a very important point for me. If we advance through this project, through to consent and through to construction and through to delivery, that's one thing I am absolutely really, really passionate about, to getting local people involved in this, because cards on the table, there will be disturbance for local people. There will be unsightly infrastructure that's left behind. So it's absolutely vitally important that, number one, that people see the opportunity on this, and that people are given the opportunity to be involved in this.
I think especially when I first came into the company, we were criticised heavily of we had a Welsh name, but we weren't a Welsh company. And I think over the last 6 months, we've made really good steps in showing that most of us are Welsh. The company is based in Wales, and all of our values are very raw. And one of the biggest values, obviously personally, but as a business, is to keep as much Welsh as we can. There are elements which, of course, can't remain Welsh from material point of views or whatever that may be, but anything that can be Welsh sourced, remains manufactured, whatever that may be, the company is making every possible plan to make sure that happens. And I see that from because I'm lucky enough to work with all the different departments. I touch with everyone. And I see that all the time. Even something as silly as lunch of a meeting, we make sure we go to the market and get it from a local trader. Just those small things. But actually, that doesn't become a value. That then becomes a company culture, and then that radiates with external members as well. So I think we do an amazing job at that, and it's good opportunity like this to scream about how we go about our business.
And it's very important, the local employment in it, because you have the touch then, because it's their area of work, or of where they live. So then they tend to leave it in a better condition than you'd have somebody from further afield. They wouldn't necessarily take the same pride in what they do because they want to leave it as they've got it as well.
Well, easy way of looking at it is they might want to leave at 5 to get on the M4 for a certain time to get down to south or whatever that may be. Someone who's within a 25-mile radius, staying that extra 15 minutes to do that one little last touch really bears no relevance to their evening, does it? So it's small things like that they play a big part in it all.
And there will be market engagement events as we progress through this process. For instance, the tendency to think about large infrastructure projects like this, that it's so niche and so specialist. Yes, don't get me wrong. For assembly, erecting, and the stringing of the conductor, for instance, that is specialist work.
Yeah.
You can't get an interview on a Friday, start on a Monday, and be up a pylon on a Tuesday. Yeah. That's not how it works. But there are other aspects to this. There's, for instance, just as an easy example, there's going to be a lot of plant and equipment. There's a lot of fencing, a lot of access roads to be built and removed. Mm-hmm. The quarries, concrete, aggregate, everything like that.
And it's very funny how much specialist there is in the area. It's a good working, known as a good working people's area, and the amount of specialist people that are in the area, it's surprising when you start talking to the locals. Oh, I've done that, and there is some very experienced people in the area.
So yeah, as for the area as a whole, some people will see it having a negative impact, and I completely understand that. But also, I'd like people to think about what positive aspects of this as well. Is there opportunity for me there?
Yeah.
And so we will be holding further events as we move forward through this process.
Yeah, I think the other thing which we're very empathetic to is that a lot of landowners really only know or hear or see of us at consultation, which is, from our point of view, it's a difficult position to be put in, because generally they'll come there with a agenda of fear or being upset or uncertainty. So our initial connections with people is normally a difficult one. So being able to have these opportunities to speak openly and really understand, well, before that face-to-face interaction, we do all of this behind the scenes. We do it in a really well-mannered way. We do it efficiently. We do it in a way that we can source as much locally. That, for me, is a really important place to put us, as opposed to when we go to consultations, my reference about not being Welsh, we get regularly, well, you just work, I've heard someone say to Steve, you just work for an agent. You don't know a thing about, you don't even live here. And then they'll speak Welsh to the person next to him and say, well, he's just a trained bilingual. Like, we hear these really upsetting things. Well, in actual fact, we really care about this stuff. And that's why we're sat here now. And that's why I personally came to the business. And I can speak for Steve on that as well. I live in Carmarthen. I'm not from this sector. I knew about the project a little bit, but I only knew the bad stuff. And actually, the more I looked into it and the more I heard, I was really intrigued by it. And I thought, actually, I think I can make a difference not only in this business, but to Wales. Not me personally, but as a bigger picture. And I was really invested by that. And now I'm really passionate and care about it.
Absolutely. And we've taken a kind of a different approach, not only during the ground investigation works that we've gone on for as well. The majority of the people that are stakeholders in this project will come aware of there's a couple of guys gone out on the land doing construction feasibility surveys, for instance. Locations identified where there's potentially a pylon going to be, as you touched on there. Landowners and stakeholders coming into the consultations, really concerned, come to air their views and all that. But when the two boys go out on the land and actually between the two boys, there's 50 years experience in this sector between them.
Yeah.
Robbie's Welsh speaking, and Adam, he's been around this business a long, long time. They're able to engage with the landowner and have a softer conversation with them.
Yeah.
And specifically in Welsh. And that's one of the main things for yourself as well, Dow, isn't it? The Welsh language.
And we saw a lot of that where the farmers were very much on our side because of the hard work that Robbie and Adam had done, because they had listened to the farmers' concern. They had potentially moved it to a more pragmatic location for them, so the landowner was more on board with our work because of that.
Yeah, and Ilan as well. I know I supported you on a couple of roundtables with landowners in the past as well. Have you? Yeah. I definitely felt that made a difference. I don't know what you're...
Yeah, it's true, and I think what we tend to forget is, we tend to go to these consultations, and then the people who turn up are usually people who are against it or very concerned. The landowners who are directly impacted very rarely come to the consultations.
Yeah.
Because we've been having conversations with them for the last 2 years, so they're up to speed with what's happening, and they prefer not to get involved in the consultations because I suppose they don't want to be linked with us really, as though they're in bed with us. They're not. It's just we've gone to them, and they just happen to own land where we want to construct something.
Yeah.
And
so we're having this ongoing dialogue, and when you sit around the table with these landowners and listen to their concerns, and you see that they're worried about it, then you become invested, don't you? And it's something that you want to do what you can to try and help.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's impossible not to get invested, isn't it?
It is. You can't.
When you go and I keep saying it, there is no substitute to having boots on the ground. And as Green Gen Cymru, as a company, we advanced through this process, through to hopefully get consent, through to construction. But the bigger picture here is to be owner-operators of this network.
Yeah.
So this network has got a lifetime of 40, 50 years. So we've got a long way to go with these landowners and local communities.
Yeah.
So it's absolutely paramount that we don't shoot ourselves in the foot at this early stage. And the success of the ground investigation is testament to that.
Yeah. I think that's a pretty good place to leave that.